This is lesson 9.4, angles with secants and tangents. Okay, so for this lesson, guys, it's the same rule, no matter whether you have secants or tangents. So like if you guys look, this is an example of you getting two tangent lines, right? A tangent line is a line that intersects a circle in one spot. As soon as it passes through it in two spots, that means it's a secant. Okay, so if we have two tangents drawn from some exterior point B, this is how we want to think about it. So we kind of look at the angle. So I'm going to kind of highlight a little bit just to emphasize everything. So here's the angle that we are trying to find. Okay, I know I'm highlighting in yellow, but okay, so that's the angle we're trying to find. So what we're going to do is the formula for how to find this outside angle right here is you're going to take your major arc. So we call the major arc the arc from the 2 points A and C, right, where the tangents intersect the circle. This right here is your major arc. Okay, so that major arc in this picture is 260. So then we're going to take that, and what we do is we subtract it from our minor arc. Okay, so this is my minor arc right there, 100. Okay, so in other words, you can kind of see it set up here. You subtract the major minus the minor arc, and then you divide by 2, or you half it. Okay, so like in this example, what I would have done, I'll do it up here. In order to get x is going to equal 260 minus 100. And then whatever I get for that, I just divide by 2. Okay, which is the same thing as multiplying by a half. So 260 minus 100 is 160. 160 over 2 is 80. And that's how we end up getting this angle is 80 degrees. Okay, so if we look at the next scenario, okay, the next scenario is when you have two secants. Now, it's a secant because it's intersecting the circle in two spots. So this whole line right here, they call a secant. So it's a secant theorem, okay? So again, they're asking you guys to find this outside exterior angle, okay? So you're kind of looking at the angle and the arcs that are squished in between those, that angle, okay? So we have our major arc, which is going to be this arc, okay? So the arc AE, and it's going to be that arc minus the minor arc, and divide that by 2, okay? So in this example, we would have, if we wanted what x is, x would equal 80 minus the minor arc, 20. Whatever that gives you, just divide by 2, okay? So 80 minus 20 is 60. 60 divided by 2 gives you 30 degrees, would be what this angle is right here on the outside, okay? So it's the same rule for the bottom, okay? So if you look at the bottom here, we have a tangent and a secant, so we have one of each. So again, if you kind of trace out the angle, here's the angle, okay, here it is. Where that angle stops on the circle, okay, identify your major and your minor arcs. So this is going to be from A to D. That's going to be my major arc. And then my minor arc is going to end up being this part that's squished inside. Okay, so once you recognize that, this becomes very easy. So in other words, to get this outside exterior angle x is equal to 100 minus 30, and then I divide whatever I get for that by 2. Okay, so 100 minus 30 is 70. So 70 over 2 is really 35 degrees. Okay, so we're only going to do 5 examples. This is a pretty easy set of rules. We're going to look at a bunch of different scenarios, and then you guys can try the homework. Okay, so for this example, same thing. You're going to try to look at the angle. So here's the angle. I'm just going to trace it with my pen this time. So here's the angle. Okay, so we have our major arc is going to be this arc right here. So it's going to be that 150 minus the 70, divide what you get by 2, and then that's going to be the outside angle. Okay, so x is going to be equal to 150 minus 70 divided by 2. Okay, now again, make sure when you guys simplify this, you kind of figure out the top first. So 150 minus 70 is just 80. And then once you finish that, divide by 2. So you could do this in your calculator, just kind of do this first, enter, and then divide by 2. Or if you want to do it in one line in your calculator, just put this in parentheses when you do it. Okay, so like in your calculator window, what it would look like is you would have a parenthesis, 150 minus 70, close it, then divide by 2. Okay, that's if you want to just punch it in one line. Or you could just do it this way. This way is pretty easy too. And you would get that x is just 40 degrees on this problem. Okay, so this angle, exterior angle, ends up being 40. So then let's look at number 2. So number 2, we have 2 tangents. So usually when they give you 2 tangents, they're not going to give you either the major or the minor arc. They want you to find it. So as a quick review, we've kind of talked about this a lot. If we know that all the angles around a whole circle are 360, right? Around a point and around here. So if this is 260, that's going to be 360 minus 260 is going to get me what this arc is, the minor arc. So that ends up giving me 100. So this is 100. Okay, so if I want this exterior angle x, I'm just going to say x is equal to 260 minus 100 all over 2, or divide by 2. Okay, so that ends up being, let's see, 160 over 2, or 80 degrees. Okay, awesome. All right, so then for number 3, it says here's, we have a tangent, and we have, this is a secant, right? Now it says, given a tangent and a secant going through the center of the circle. So they're giving that to you on purpose, okay? So what we got to do is we got to find y before we can find x. So how we find y is, first off, this is a diameter, okay? So in a full circle, we know that it's 360. So in half of a circle, it's half of that, or 180. So we know that like this arc all the way from here, okay, I'll kind of trace it, is 180. So you're going to start by saying 3y plus y has to equal 180 degrees, okay? Now, what you do to solve this is you add these together. So this gives you 4y is 180. Divide both sides by 4. And you get y would be 45, okay? So then this is, so I don't know if you can tell, but where this tangent line hits the circle, so I'll kind of emphasize that point. This right here, because this one's a little hard to see. This right here is your major arc squished in between the angle, okay? And then this right here is your minor arc. So what you got to do is just sub in that y into both of these. So 3 times that 45, so 3 times 45, that gives you that arc would be 135. Okay, and then this one's just y, like straight up y, so that's going to be 45. So then to finish this problem, to kind of solve it, to get this outside angle x, I'm going to do the major arc minus the minor arc, divide that by 2, and that's going to give me my outside angle. So 135 minus 45 all over 2 is going to equal what x is. Okay, so this gives me 90 over 2, which is 45, would equal x. And that would be my answer. Okay, next one. So for number 4, it says you're given this time that you have 2 secants with one going through, again, the center of the circle. So again, you always want to, like, if ever you get stuck on a problem, because you're probably like, oh, how do I get this arc right here? You guys got to look at the big picture. This is the diameter. So if this is the diameter, all the angles on this entire half circle are 180. So what you want to do is 180 minus 100 minus 20, and that's going to get you this arc right here, okay? So that ends up being 60. So in this picture, your major arc is going to be this arc right here. You got to kind of follow the angle. So here's the angle, where the angle hits the circle. So it hits it in 4 spots, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm looking at these two from these 2 points as the major, those 2 as the minor. So this is my minor arc. So if I want to solve for that exterior angle x, I'm just going to do 60 minus 20 all over 2, and that's going to be what x is. So 60 minus 20 is 40, 40 over 2, or 40, half of 40 is just 20. And that would be your answer. Okay, so then we got one more. Now this one is a little weird. This one, now they're giving me the outside angle and they want me to find the minor arc, okay? So we have our major arc, we don't have our minor, and they're giving me the angle. So we're gonna set it up the same way. We're just gonna make a formula. So I know that 185 minus the minor arc, so major minus minor, all over 2 is gonna equal this outside angle, or that 80, okay? Now, the easiest way to solve when you have a fraction is to put this over 1 and cross multiply. Okay, that's the easiest way to do it. So 80 times 2 is 160. And then this time, anything times 1 is just itself. So this is just 185 minus x. So then if you had to solve this for x, you're going to subtract 185 on both sides. Okay. You get negative 25 is equal to negative x. I'm kind of running out of space here. But to make x positive, then you just divide both sides by negative 1, and I'll carry the answer here. So you end up getting 25 is equal to x. Now, since we're kind of working a little with a weird formula, you could always check your answer, right? So you can take this 25, put it in here. Is 185 minus 25 all over 2 equal to 80? And you'll see that it is. Okay, so you can always go backwards. Okay, that's it for this lesson, guys. Thanks.